Good morning. Happy Friday. Morale is high. I've brought leftover candy to the studio. Nobody wants it. Hope everybody's Halloween was safe and was good. Were you marked safe from the Nashville Predators' 5-1 defeat last night? What the hell happened at Bridgestone?
Man, something about the Oilers coming to Music City. I thought maybe it'll be different.
McDavid didn't even play.
He's out for 2 to 3 weeks with an ankle injury. The Preds have gotten things going after the 0-5 start. And, 2 minutes in, it's 1-0, and the Preds are just kind of clawing back the rest of the way, and it just got away from them. Fourth line did not play well, and Edmonton came in and thoroughly defeated the Preds at Bridgestone Arena. A lot of Oilers fans. Every time I go to a Preds game against a team north of the border, there are a ton of Jets, Oilers, whoever it is. And I'm always curious, are more of them making the trip down, or are more of them Canadians that live in Nashville? I'm genuinely curious.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because that's a long trip. That's a long trip from Edmonton.
Yeah, but I do. It's rare that I go out downtown, but if you go to like the Stage or something like that, I feel like half of the occupants of a Broadway bar on any given night are Canadian. I don't know why that is. Like when we did the Pontoon Saloon. Wasn't it just a giant group of Canadians?
It was a bunch of Oilers fans.
Was it Oilers fans?
It was a bunch of people from Edmonton because they were asking us all, and it was
that's
before.
Right. It wasn't during hockey season. This was
it was like in August,
yeah.
And they were all asking us about hockey. Hey, so people like the hockey here? They go to the games? It was a bunch of people from Edmonton.
They were treating us like a science experiment.
I guess they all just came back last night because there were a bunch of Oilers fans, a bunch of Preds fans too, obviously. But yeah, and then you got Roman Josi after the game saying, we can't keep talking about, we got to build some chemistry. Like, we're 10 games in. It's time.
Oh, please, God, don't sound like the Titans coordinators yesterday. I can't have that from both of the professional sports teams right now. Speaking of the NFL, 21-13, I don't know what was worse to watch, the Preds getting smacked or this game between the Texans and the Jets. The Jets somehow found a way to win. C.J. Stroud was not very good in this game. Obviously, we talked about him being without Nico Collins and now Stephon Diggs. Their left guard situation, I didn't realize this is it Kenyon Green, the guy from A&M?
Yep, Texas A&M.
He's apparently a nightmare. He got hurt. His backup came in and played much better. So Titans not the only ones experiencing less than ideal offensive line situations. But just everything from the Malachi Corley. Did you see this? I don't know if you saw this because you went to the hockey game.
I caught the end of the Texans game.
But you didn't see the Jets touchdown. That wasn't a touchdown because Malcolm Corley did his best to Deshaun Jackson.
Oh, I saw that on Twitter. Yes, I saw that on social media while at the Preds game. Yes, and I showed the people I was with around me. The Jets did a thing. Yeah,
they did a very Jets thing. It was a very Jets game the whole way through. And somehow still, it ended up being 21-13 over a team that's now 6-3, but was 6-2 going into MetLife, and we were all looking around saying, what the hell does Vegas know that we don't know? Why are the Jets favored in this game? The Jets are a misery. We put it on a poll. What's the early results at Buck Rising on Twitter? Are the Jets a good football team? I say this as somebody who picked them to go to the Super Bowl and hates myself for it more and more every day.
90% of the early voting is saying no. But
we can agree then. It's not just Twitter.
They celebrated that game like they won the Super Bowl. I mean, my goodness, Aaron Rodgers leaping into offensive linemen's arms, Jeff Ulbrich embracing. I had never seen a Week 9 Thursday Night Football celebration like the Jets beating the Texans to get to 3-6 on the season.
Well, the state of New York sports is an absolute hell because the Yankees just petered out. I mean, I know they put up a little bit of a fight there in the last two games of the World Series, but obviously losing 4-1 against the Dodgers is not an ideal situation for the Yankees fans. And then they've got the Giants, who are also just cheeks, and whose best thing is Dexter Lawrence, who, by the way, kills me every time I see him in these Campbell's Chunky Soup commercials because he's wearing ill-fitting clothing. I don't know what it is about fat guys in ill-fitting clothing, but it made me laugh. But the thing about the Jets is, what did the Jets do last night that was a part of some of the theme from this past NFL weekend? Bad football teams are more than welcome to win a game from time to time, which makes me even more irritated. If I was a Titans fan, it would make me even more irritated to watch this team be non-competitive in a lot of situations where I'm seeing the Browns get semi-professional quarterback play from Jameis Winston. It's just not Deshaun, right? It's not a disaster. That team looked like it had life. You see the Patriots get a win. After Drake May goes out, he's dealing with concussion stuff. Jacoby Brissett, a backup quarterback who we all know to be thoroughly average. I think, he's probably below average in terms of NFL quarterback play, but still, they find a way to win a game. You're seeing teams at least stay close in these games, which makes the last margin of defeat for this team the last 2 weeks. I know they're playing a lot better competition, but still, you're more than welcome to be competitive and go out there and win a football game. This is such an important game for them to win, to show that they are not an absolute disaster, to show that they are not the Carolina Panthers of the AFC. Please.
I agree. If you lose on Sunday, then it is just the tailspin of all tailspins. But I do think looking at the 2-6 Jets winning a football game and saying, see, bad football teams can win games, when talking about the Titans is a bit of a false equivalence. Like, that's a Jets team with Super Bowl expectations, with Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback, throwing to Devontae Adams. I know they've been bad, but we also know Aaron Rodgers to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he played like one last night with 3 touchdown passes, and they have players like Garrett Wilson that can do that. And that's the crazy thing about watching the Jets is you just see these star players across the board.
Oh, they're everywhere.
Guys that they have hit on in the draft, Quentin Williams, Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. It is just insane to look up and down that roster and just say, this is a 2-6 football team. But that catch by Garrett Wilson, better than Odell?
Odell vibes. I love that they have a Jets and Giants receiver, that picture for all time, doing the reverse, like a backwards jump man to catch a pass. It was awesome. I think it's arguably better than Odell. Odell was like Cirque du Soleil stuff, though. Like the guy, the body control on that. And I know the gloves are sticky or whatever, but still, it's a wild play to make. Do you follow this, not to do internet on the radio?
Wait, who says the gloves are sticky? Is that a thing people say when they see Odell?
When they see the one-handed catches, like, I feel like football fans of an older generation will be like, oh, look, they're gloves. When you've got receivers on YouTube highlights from like the 70s and 80s with stickum just dripping down their arms to be able to catch these passes.
Yeah, Bolitnikov, right? With the stickum. No, I can't imagine my reaction if somebody watched that catch by Odell or that catch by Garrett. Well, sticky gloves, it's easy.
I mean, brother, Twitter's a terrible place, which is why I don't like doing the internet on the radio. But have you seen this account? And I only bring it up because the NFL did like a video feature on it, art but make it sports, where they take still images from the world of sports, like the Garrett Wilson catch last night, like Will Levis getting, sandwiched by, what's the defensive end for the Packers? Lucas Van Ness. And they put it next to a classical art piece that looks almost exactly like the moment in sports. It's excellent. So not to do a reference for people who aren't necessarily on Twitter or Instagram, but the NFL's doing video feature stuff on that too. The guy apparently lives in Philadelphia, goes to the Philadelphia Art Museum and finds these classical works and then uses them to make the sports moments even more visceral that way.
CJ Stroud sacked 8 times last night.
Career high.
I wonder how Texans fans are feeling right now, because I know the Texans are 6-3 and the Colts are 4-4. There's still a gap there, but the division, it doesn't feel like there's as much separation as we thought there might be.
That's what the Colts are telling you. That's why they're making a quarterback change. They're saying, no, we just played that team, lost by 3, and had a defensive touchdown that would have won it, wiped off the board. We can still make a push for this thing. It's only the halfway point, which is what, again, bothers me about this football season here locally. I want a little fear, right? Because that means there's some level of expectations. Texans fans are scared because they're 6-3. It's a terrible loss to the Jets, even though the Jets can probably get some teams from time to time. To your point, there's too much talent for them not to. Like, the Texans fans have that fear that, they can still get got, that their season is not just something that they're going to cruise through, because it is still only the first game of the halfway point of the NFL season. And a lot of these teams don't feel terribly secure. I'm sure even the Chiefs at 7-0 are looking around and being like, DeAndre Hopkins is nice, but can he really carry us if he needs to carry us if Travis Kelce all of a sudden disappears again? Like, none of these highly competitive teams are comfortable with where they're at. The Ravens just lost to the Browns. because their secondary is a disaster and they couldn't catch a Jameis Winston interception if you paid them to. That's what keeps people engaged in this stuff, though, which sucks for Titans fans because they're just like, sure, throw Will Levis back out there. Let's see if that just can't bring some chaos back into my life to be entertained for the next 10 weeks.
Wonder if the Jets show any signs of life from here. I'm genuinely curious. They go to Arizona next weekend. Then they host the Colts, host the Seahawks, go to Miami.
Oh, please act like you're not rooting against them, though.
It is funny to watch. Sure, yeah. I mean, the House of Cards. Everybody likes to see.
The Malachi Corley thing is unbelievable. Unbelievable that players are still doing that in 2024.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. Everybody likes to see a House of Cards completely topple, especially when the card that's trying to hold it all together is talking about ayahuasca and cayenne pepper water. So I am genuinely curious to what happens to the Jets from here if this sparks them on any sort of run, because I do think they are just too talented to go 4-13 and bottom out in that way.
615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to join the conversation, we'll talk some college football. Cole Kubelik of the SEC Network is going to be on the call along with Tom Hart for this Tennessee and Kentucky game. We'll catch up with Cole and get his analysis coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Cole Kublik of SEC Network will join us here in just a little bit. Vols and Tackle Cats on tap for tomorrow. Lucas Burt and the crew are going to the game. I am not going to be able to go, unfortunately. We've got Titans radio pregame at 9 a.m. on Sunday, so that felt a little inefficient for me, but I'm sure you guys are going to have a great time. You said you wanted to take Burt to a win.
Yeah, I took Robert to the Georgia game last year, and other than the first play, a Jalen Wright long touchdown run, that was not a fun day at Neyland Stadium. So it'll be fun to take him under the lights, the dark mode uniforms, in a game where it should be expected that Tennessee smack the Cats around.
How much do you enjoy the tailspin of Kentucky football, or are you just happy to see them when the Vols play them? Like, I don't know if you actively root against Kentucky during the season since you have no ill will towards them since you own them.
I don't think about them at all.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation. And yeah, we just to reset what we talked about earlier in the week, this is an opportunity for Tennessee to further entrench their resume ahead of the first college football playoff selection show. That's on Tuesday. That's coming up. It's also NFL trade deadline day. It's also election day. Those things, of course, I have stacked in the proper order in terms of importance, but it's a big opportunity for Tennessee. Style points now matter, especially with that Georgia game upcoming. Cole Kublik joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. He's on the call on Saturday night. Cole, thanks for taking some time.
Hey, absolutely. Good to be with you.
So what, from a tactics standpoint, before we get into more specifics, what most excites you about this game? Because Tennessee should win handily, but how do you expect them to go about doing it?
I think can Tennessee continue to be a physical football team offensively, continue to run the football when they want to, and they've been pretty dedicated to it. It was one of the things that they dedicated the majority of their offseason to, is essentially being able to win different style fights, and that means bigger personnel, more tight ends, different run schemes, and maybe just flat out being more dedicated to it. Now, with that, you want to see the play action balls hit, and there have been multiple that have appeared to be open, appeared to be obtainable over the last couple of games that they've played that they've not been able to come up with for whatever reason down the field. So if Tennessee's going to get to where they think they can want to go this year, that's to the playoff and maybe deep in the playoffs, the percentage of those balls that are caught and completed are going to have to go up. But I just want to see physically if they can continue to do what they've done most of this year, because this is a Kentucky group that defensively has not looked like the Kentucky that I know the last couple of weeks. I think that could be there for the taking for this Volunteer offense.
Cole, we had Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel on the show earlier this week. He had a really interesting conversation with Nico Imaliava's high school football coach, who told him that they would purposely set up some quarterback run plays to get Nico some early contact, to get him in the rhythm and the flow of a game. And obviously Tennessee's had those tough starts on offense, and Nico played his best football against Alabama after taking that big hit in the first half and getting going in the run game. Do you think there's anything to that in terms of maybe a discussion over the course of the bye week about getting Nico some contact, or at least getting him going and on the move a little bit to get him into a flow?
I understand the sentiment, but I feel like your desire to do that and maybe the reality in doing so against Pop Johnson and Deion Walker and some of those guys is a little bit different of a mindset. High school ball, sure. Let's get you banged up a little bit. Let's get you knocked around. Let's get you feeling good about the game. SEC football with multiple early picks in the NFL draft, they're going to be on the other side? Probably not. Specifically with, this is one of the things I'm interested to talk to Josh Heupel and his staff about, because I think every staff is doing this and has been doing this, but where are you from a conservation standpoint? Where are you? Because I talked to Sark about this before the season, and he said, listen, we're playing more guys early. We're getting more guys involved early. We understand this is hopefully going to be a longer season than any of us have ever played. So we've got to conserve bodies. We have to take care of our football team. And even coming off of a bye, that's one thing I'd be interested in, is not only do you want to try to run him a little bit more to make him happy, get him going, whatever that is, but if you do want to do it, how great do you feel about it from a depth perspective?
So what kind of answers do you think are being discussed right now in that building in terms of the slow starts?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what kind of answers do you think are being talked about in that building right now in terms of the slow starts? I mean, the last 3 games of being scoreless in the first half, it is unheard of in the Josh Heupel era. Is it simply just keep swinging and then maybe they start to connect earlier than they have?
I think you go back and look at some of the situations that you've been in, be it field position, be it what hash you've been on, be it personnel groupings that you're using, and you try to alter those. Maybe there are a couple of things that defenses have had a little bit of a beat on, be it, all right, they run tight end into the boundary. We think they're going to run weak side. Okay, if that's the case, then you get away from that. I think also maybe not only running Nico a little bit more, but continuing to harp on some of those higher percentage throws and some of those perimeter throws. I've seen more people not play their alley defenders out as wide with some of those quick screens that Tennessee likes to run as they have in the past. Like, people are kind of splitting the difference on that a little bit. Okay, so if you're going to do that, like, we need to punish you on the perimeter. We need to make you pay for that, because that's 2- and 3-fold. Not only is it easy yards that we should be able to obtain, there shouldn't be one defender that can stop that out wide, outside the hash, even outside the numbers, but that's going to make your D-line run. That's going to make your linebackers run. That's going to hopefully wear your defense down. And if that's what's been happening, and that's why they've had success running the ball late in the second half, I imagine that Josh Heupel's not overly concerned about it, because if they feel like they can use a similar strategy, especially against this defense that's going to be thin going in, they feel like they'll have a good enough chance to win the game.
He's on the call for SEC Network on Saturday. You can also hear him on McElroy and Kublik in the morning on JOX from 7 to 10 a.m. weekdays. At Cole Kublik is where you follow him on Twitter. They're just so desperate for Nico to be good here, Cole. They're just trying to figure out anything that they can to see, all right, when will we know that he's going to have this breakthrough moment that can help this offense seem as seamless as it was? Because Hendon Hooker spoiled him in a big spot. And of course, expectations were nowhere near what they are right now until that started to build throughout the course of the season in 2022.
And that's fine, but also just try to keep in mind, Hendon Hooker had played and been around a lot of high-level football when he took over that offense. Also, I'm not sure there are a lot of people that were even confident he was going to stay when Josh Heupel was hired. So it's not like everybody knew that was just a shoe-in and all of a sudden he was going to throw for 380 a game. He had to kind of work his way into it a little bit. His mobility was something that I remember Alex Golesh telling me, we didn't really run him in practice, so we didn't know what he was capable of as a runner until we got in games. Then all of a sudden, we see what he can do and how he can break people down. We started to add that kind of stuff. So I know people don't like to hear this. There's still a growth process involved in football. Middle school, high school, peewee, college, NFL. I mean, look at all these shoe-in NFL first-round quarterbacks that we thought were going to be great. They're all getting benched. So it just takes time to get acclimated with how things operate, the speed of the game, getting through all your progressions, not getting happy feet, knowing when to let the ball go, knowing where to miss, different things like that. It just takes reps, and not just practice reps. It takes game reps to understand some of those things. So, listen, Nico's got a ton of talent. There is so much that you can see in his game, even on an incompletion or even on certain things that don't go the way that the fans want to. I absolutely think patience will be a virtue with this young man.
I love your point about just the level of patience required, especially because there's 2 fan bases in this state that are particularly triggered about quarterback play right now between the Vols and the Titans, but that's neither here nor there. Brock Vandagriff at Kentucky, why has that not worked the way that it was expected to when he transferred over?
Well, I think that there was a little bit of sentiment when he left Athens that, the processing, the reading of defenses, the getting through progressions was a little bit problematic. And I don't think that that's changed. And I think, once again, he's been around high-level college football for a long time. Has he played live action? Not a ton before this season. So that's going to take a little bit of acclimation. I also think that physically they're not where they need to be up front, and this is going to be a run-first offense that needed to utilize that to allow him to hit play-action shots and maybe to cut the field down for him just a little bit, and they haven't really been able to get to that. Almost every offense, every quarterback has what I would call a bit of a fallback plan or a foundational amount of plays that you can just go to, sort of your call it and run it. I don't know what those are for Kentucky right now, to be honest with you. I don't know what you say, all right, guys, we're in a heap of hell. Let's just go to our call it and run it because we know we can get a little something going with this. I don't know what that is. I don't know what what maintains that level of confidence for Bush Hamden right now? They've had to alter it. They were going to try to go big. That didn't really work out. Now you got some offensive linemen beat up. So even if you wanted to go with bigger lineups, you don't have the numbers to be able to do that. The tight ends haven't really been what they've wanted them to be. The receivers have still been a little bit inconsistent. That's been a problem for a long time for this group. I mean, they're super talented. They're capable of making big plays. It's just the consistency has not been there. So I think there's a lot around him that has aided to him not working, if you would say. But, he's got to get into some things that he is super confident, super comfortable in, and I just don't think Kentucky has consistently been able to find those for him yet.
Cole Kubelik here with us, talking Vols and Kentucky here on 104.5 The Zone.
Cole, elsewhere around the SEC, Diego Pavia makes his return to the Plains. Obviously, Saturday, we all remember what happened last time he was there with New Mexico State. I'm just curious to get a vibe check from what you and Greg McElroy have heard on your show down in Birmingham from the Auburn faithful. How is everybody responding from that win against Kentucky, and what's the conversation been as Vanderbilt gets ready to come to town?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of multiple personalities happening with Auburn fans right now, talking to yourselves, having conversations with yourself where you see Jarquez Hunter go for fourth most yards in a single game in Auburn football history on the ground. And then you also flip the conversation around yourself and say, yeah, this Diego Pavia guy has been a warhorse against Hugh Freeze the last couple of years. So I think you're nervous about it. I don't think there's any way to feel good about it, but there are more things to feel better about. Peyton Thorne has actually been pretty good protecting the football. I know he had a bad pick early last week, but it shows me a lot that he's able to overcome that, make good decisions the majority of that game after that, and be able to help lead his team to a win. You go to those turnovers, which I think Auburn is 132nd, 128th, whatever, in turnover margin. They're worse in the SEC. But if you actually go to the last 4 or 5 games, it has incrementally gotten better. So you show some improvement there. I think they finally have the offensive line where they want it. Brandon Joyner's at left guard. You've kicked Dylan Wade back out to left tackle. Center right guard have been fine. Connor Liu's been great at center most of the year, and you got Too Tall healthy at right tackle. So that's the group that you've probably needed most of the year. You finally found them. That gives you some confidence. You've seen better effort from some of the tight ends from a blocking perspective. So I think all of those things and the defense is actually playing pretty good football consistently most of this year. They've had a couple letdowns late, but I think athletically with what they have out on the edges, with Keon Crawford, Jalen McLeod, who can play off the ball, on the ball, they can play defensive end, they can set the edge, they can rush the passer, they can play outside and maybe be a little bit of a versatile weapon for DJ Durkin against some of the read stuff that Vanderbilt's going to bring. A lot of things to feel good about. But at the end of the day, it's like Diego Pavia told us when we met with him a couple weeks ago. We asked him what his normal message is to his team leaving the huddle. He's like, hey, no matter what happens, who they got, at the end of the day, y'all got me. So, this kid's got more confidence than almost anybody that I've ever met, and it's not false confidence. It's not false bravado. He just believes he can beat you no matter what the circumstance is, and that's dangerous with a guy. Here's the most important part about it. That's been running the same offense for about 4 years. And that's the thing I think we lose sight of. People just think that, this Diego Pavia kid comes to Vanderbilt and he's a badass and he's great and he does all this stuff. He's running the same stuff that he's been running. It's the opposite of what we just talked about with Nico. He's good because it all works. It's all been simplified. He knows all of it. Tim Beck told us that they lost communications in the Georgia State game, and he ran it for 2 series by himself. And Tim said he could just do it by himself if he wanted to. If we really had to, he could just go run the offense. That's a luxury not a lot of people have. So anytime you got Diego, man, you got a chance. So I think Auburn fans confident in some things that are taking place, but also have a real understanding of what playing against this Diego Pavia offense and a new Vanderbilt attitude football team really in general can be.
Oh, it's so cool to have that just difference, that kind of, just new life breathed into that football program that's just down the road from us here in Nashville. Cole, and when you talk about Auburn fans having these conversations with themselves, I'm looking at Dawn Davenport. Her kid is dressed in an Indiana football uniform because Auburn football has her in knots.
Yeah, I didn't even know they made Indiana uniforms for kids to wear.
Me neither, buddy,
cool,
and I went there.
Brand new.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm sure Hutch just got that licensing deal done 2 weeks ago. But Signetti's been awesome up there. So, yeah, I'm sure a little personality conflict in her house also.
Cole, call down in Jacksonville. I guess the last time we'll see Georgia and Florida play in Jacksonville, at least for a couple of years. Florida obviously has had this impressive bounce back that I don't think anybody really predicted with Billy Napier. If anybody was counted out for the year, it was Billy Napier and the Gators. How can they give Georgia a game tomorrow?
DJ Lagway has been excellent down the field. 9 balls completed of 30 or more air yards on the season, second most in all of college football, and that's on like 86, 87 attempts, which is just mind-blowing. The problem with that is it takes time to get those balls off. You got to have good protection. The Florida offensive line has been better, but I don't know from a straight drop back perspective if they're one that I still trust, especially against what Georgia is going to bring out. But they have been better. And Montrell Johnson, Trayvon Ball can both run the football. And if they can kind of control the tempo of this game, if they can slow this thing down a little bit and make it their style of game, they can be in it. The most important factor, it felt like late in that Texas game that Mike Bobo finally said, you know what, guys, we got to just try to run the ball. Like, let's just see if we can move the ball north and south on the ground. And they did. ATN had some success, and he kind of got it going a little bit. Now, this is a better Florida front than people give it credit for. Cam Jackson is a guy that can be a problem inside. Tyreek Sabb has been pretty good. Jack Pyburn's been somebody that's been super active for them this year. That defensive line can cause some problems, and they got some edge guys like George Gums, the Western Kentucky transfer, that can be really good. If they can win first and second down, these Georgia tackles are gettable in pass rush situations, and Florida's got some dudes that can get back there. So you've got to slow Trevor Etienne down. You've got to get Georgia to 3rd and longs, and you've got to make it your style fight. If they can do those things, I do think it can be competitive in the fourth quarter. It's just somebody's going to have to step up and make plays for Florida late. Like Elijah Badger showed a little bit of that. I still think Shamar James has played great football this year, so they're going to need massive plays, probably late, if they're going to stay in it or be in it or maybe find a way to win it. And obviously that hasn't happened recently, because I think the last 3, Georgia's won by 20 or more. So we haven't seen a competitive matchup in this game for a while.
The only team that's still undefeated in the SEC at this point, Texas A&M, the job that Mike Elko has done, Cole, and they're at South Carolina, of course, this weekend. What can you say about what you've seen from the turnaround in that program, and specific to Elko, some of the decisions that he's making, whether it be the quarterbacks, the job he did with that defense against Garrett Nussmeier last week? It's just been a really, really well-done job, it feels like.
He's just a great football coach. And you could be around him for 5 minutes and you'll get it. It's the only way I know how to describe it. Like, he is gravitational in his personality. And from a football perspective, he's super bright, but he never comes across as one of these, like, I'm going to throw every football word, jargon, verse at you that you've probably never heard of. Like, he doesn't try to out Bill Belichick. Like, he knows ball, and he's really good at it, but he can talk to you about it like you're a 3rd grader. And it just feels like it makes sense, and it feels like it's cool, and it feels like it's fun. And he just has that magnetic personality. So he had some talent to work with. I think he did a really good job of putting guys in position to make plays. Like, he knew he had Nick Scorton, so he goes to Shamar Turner, and he's like, hey, we want to play you down inside this year. Like, we want you to be disruptive. He puts on some weight, and he's been that. Now, he doesn't have the numbers, but he's really helped that defense. Like, if you watch that game last year, Scorton got a lot of the credit, but, like, Turner was the one eating up blocks and and was, like, problematic inside. He's got linebackers playing a little bit better. Offensively, that offensive line's totally different. Totally different. I think they're the most improved offensive line from week 1 to now in the SEC. Doesn't maybe mean they're the best, but they've come the furthest. And they got a couple tight ends that love to help them. Their backs get downhill, and, like, they just want to trade paint with you. So he has brought, I think, sort of a physical, like, back alley fighter mentality to A&M that just, honestly, the last couple coaches hasn't been there. Because you watch A&M and you see them and you're like, good Lord, these guys are a good-looking football team. And, like, man, that guy can run. And, like, when that guy wants to, he can really get it. But it never came across as, like, they like to dirty a game up or they'll welcome a fist fight. They never felt like that kind of a team. They feel like that kind of a team now. And so schematically, his defenses can be a problem. He's got individuals that can win one-on-ones. Like, I love working with Roman on Monday nights on Read and React. Like, he shows me some of the details, the intricate stuff that Elko does, like in the secondary with linebackers. I'm like, holy hell, I didn't even notice that. Like, it's really cool stuff. And then the quarterback situation, like you said, I don't know exactly where they go with this moving forward, because I mean, if you put on the Missouri tape, you get a totally different player than you got in the LSU tape with Connor Wigman. And the Missouri tape is wow. I mean, literally, like even the misses, you're like, okay, like that was right where it needed to be, where his guy could get it or nobody else could, and it was a great throw. And then you put the LSU film on, and you're like, what are you seeing? But then Marcel Reed comes in, and see, I disagree with the whole LSU did not make adjustments. They did adjust to him. It's just the way they adjusted didn't work because he read it well, and there were a couple of things that were in that they just couldn't stop based on how A&M was running it. But that was masterful, and how they handle it, it might not matter. They might play them both moving forward, and it just comes down to whoever they feel is best for that moment. And at the end of the day, what they did to LSU, it's what every team has had the opportunity to do, and I've said this for a while, and that's catch the football from Garrett Nussmeier. You're either going to be Arkansas and you're going to drop 3 picks, or you're going to be A&M and pick 3 off. Because, by God, he's throwing it to the other team. It's going to happen. He just has that confidence, and now you see him make a couple boneheaded mistakes here late, but, like, he is not afraid to try to fit the ball into a window that does not exist. You just have to capitalize on it, and A&M did.
The radio show is McElroy and Kublik in the morning. You can follow it at Mac and Cube. You can listen to it live weekdays, 7 to 10 a.m., or check out the podcast wherever it is that you get your podcast. Josh Pate wanders in here a couple of times every month, and I've enjoyed watching him, one, sell out because he's wearing suits on television now as opposed to this plain white T-shirt thing that he's been standing by the entire time that I've known him. But it made me so happy to hear that you were roasting him for his suit choice on television the other day.
Well, first off, I saw a couple folks dressed up like the guy on Beetlejuice that has the tiny head and like the suit, he looks like that guy because his suit was 7 sizes too big. Like he literally went into Riches or Parisian and just bought the first one on the rack that he saw. Not even sure he tried it on. And then, like, that's not even the only sellout portion. Now he's got his little diet soda deal that he's got. Like, it used to just be one sponsor. Now he's got, like, 15 sponsors. But he makes fun of all of us corporate people that work for radio stations and TV stations. We're the corporate ones. But now he's, feeling more and more like a sellout from that perspective. And then has the audacity, because I just chose a white T-shirt to walk around with my kids for Halloween last night, to accuse me of dressing up as him for Halloween. It's just unbelievable to even think of, like, how your brain could be that egotistical to think that someone would dress up as you is that's diabolical, man. Like that's next level.
He likes to pretend that he's one of the people, but certainly the behavior would indicate otherwise. Cole, thank you so much for the time.
He is slowly becoming like the Dabo Sweeney of college football.
Oh, no.
I look forward to playing that for him the next time he's in here with us. Thank you for the time, buddy. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Cole Kublik, SEC Network. He's got the call on Saturday night alongside Tom Hart of the Tennessee Vols hosting the Kentucky Tackle Cats, and he, like us, is a Pate State hater. I guess me. You two love Pate. I also love Pate.
Yeah, he's great at what he does.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Pretty good. But I still like taking shots at him whenever I can.
All fair points by Cole Kublik. That's a great show, Mac and Cube, on our sister station in Birmingham.
Oh, damn it. I forgot your Kentucky stuff. It's sitting at home in a bag on my desk. You're supposed to wear it. You're going to have to wear it Monday.
That's on you, brother. Actually, that's fine. I'll wear it Monday.
You're going to have to wear it Monday. Coming up next, do you have an SEC stat of the day? We just got a lot of SEC information there. Can you top Cole Kublik, what he just produced?
This is one of those, you know how they say that phrase about an unstoppable force meaning an immovable object?
Yes.
Object. This is a stoppable.
You know that phrase that I can't say?
This is a stoppable force meaning an immovable object, and we'll talk about that.
That's next.
What happens when a stoppable force meets an immovable object? Because that's what we might find out on Saturday when Kentucky's offense takes the field against this Tennessee defense. We know Tennessee ranks number one in a lot of metrics across college football defensively. They're actually not the number one scoring defense in the SEC. They are third. They are allowing 11.6 points per game behind Texas and Ole Miss. But in several metrics, Tennessee is number one, including these by Todd Furman, who joins 3HL, former odds maker in Vegas, the host of Bet the Board pod. Furman tweeted, Tennessee is the only FBS team to allow under 20 points in every game this season. They are the fifth SEC team since the year 2000 to hold each of their first 7 opponents under 20 points. The previous 4 all won the national championship. 2003 LSU, 2011 Alabama, 2012 Alabama, 2021 Georgia. So all that to say, Tennessee has a championship defense. Will the offense show up to complement it? And it doesn't need to be like 2022. It's not going to be like 2022. I think there is that expectation that because you have a 5-star quarterback and that when it clicks, it's going to look like a carbon copy of that 2022 offense. But the thing that we don't talk about with that 2022 offense is you had a top 10 pick at right tackle. You had draft picks across the board at wide receiver like Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman that you could rely on, that you knew you could rely on. And Tennessee has athletes and they have good players at wide receiver, but not to that degree. They're dealing with injuries right now. They've dealt with drops this season. The consistency hasn't necessarily been there from either the quarterback or wide receiver position or offensive line for that matter. In fact, the only area where Tennessee is markedly better than that 2022 team offensively, overall depth and the run game. Dylan Sampson is the best player on this offense. So they go up against a Kentucky offense that is dead last in the SEC, 19.1 points per game. Cole listed all the things that have not worked with Brock Vandegrift, the Georgia starter or Georgia transfer at quarterback. And it has just been dreadful in Kentucky. I wonder if Kentucky has the worst vibes in the conference right now. It's either Kentucky or Auburn.
Yeah, Napier's dug himself out, it feels like a little bit.
Yeah, they've bounced back. They're playing well.
What are the vibes at Mississippi State?
Yeah, they're terrible. They are the worst team in the SEC, without question. But year one, and it's a brand new offense. I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know what the conversation is in Starkville. But either Auburn or Kentucky, to me, is where it has to feel the worst. And at Kentucky, it's got to feel the most stale. Those have to be the stalest vibes in the SEC for a coach that's been there. Longest tenured active coach in the SEC, Mark
and
Stoops.
It's compounded because he tried to leave you.
Exactly.
He tried to leave you and he got foiled and then had to, put out a statement afterwards saying how committed he was while he's talking about, and I know this was AI, but he has had moments talking about the NIL stuff that have been less than flattering for somebody who should be also producing at a higher level based on expectations and on pay. I mean, Mark Stoops is well compensated.
Yes.
Relative to SEC coaches. So, and you understand, like Kentucky's got money and they're willing to invest it in sports if you're good. But now you have earned expectations and they've, of course, fallen well short of that this year. 1-5 in the conference, 3-5 overall. There's not a ton of stakes in this game, but there is the opportunity for you to show for the first time this season that you can separate yourself. I mean, not just separate yourself from a lesser team, because yes, you did that against Chat. You did that against Kent State, right? Those kind of teams that exist out there in the early part of your schedule. But you're supposed to smack Kentucky around on Saturday. This is a night game. You got the dark mode uniforms. You got all the hype around it. Neyland's going to be losing its mind. Bert's probably going to be naked in the stands wearing nothing but a coonskin cap. The whole thing. I can't. I'm so happy. I'm sad that I'm not going. I'm happy that I'm not going to witness that. That would scar some people that I'm sure are going to be sitting around him.
Your loss, buddy. I cannot wait to parade Robert Walsh around in Knoxville. I think Robert Walsh...
Just know that you're going to be parading him around naked.
I think he is an honorary VFL. In another life, Robert absolutely would have been one of us. He walked in here, put on that coonskin cap, and we said, oh, yeah, that works. All of us in here said, yeah, that makes sense. So I can't wait to show Robert around. Last time we went to Knoxville was for Georgia, where Tennessee got smacked after the first play, the touchdown run by Jalen Wright. But, yeah, so like we talked about yesterday, Tennessee's going to have every opportunity, theoretically, to get the early offense going because Kentucky hasn't been able to move the football on anybody this year. Their resume was weird, too, to start, where they gave Georgia a game at home, and then they got an impressive road win at Ole Miss, and then things started to just pile up. They got smacked around at home by South Carolina early in the year. They've lost to Vanderbilt. They looked lifeless after taking a 10-0 lead against Auburn just last weekend. It's just not been good for Kentucky. Elsewhere, we talked about it with Cole Kubelik. Vandy goes down to Auburn. Diego Pavia striking fear into the hearts of Auburn faithful.
He owns them.
Texas A&M with a tricky road trip at South Carolina. That's a South Carolina team that could very well be a one-loss team that probably should have beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa and probably should have beaten Ole Miss, or not Ole Miss, but LSU at home early in the year. Officiating decisions, big lead that was blown in that game. One of the best, if not, I don't know, the best defensive line in the SEC feels like it is almost a three-way tie right now between Tennessee, South Carolina, Texas, Georgia are just loaded up front.
It's more than 3 teams.
It's 4. South Carolina is phenomenal, and their defensive line unit, Dylan Stewart, has been phenomenal, the 5-star freshman. That's a tricky spot, especially if Marcel Reed's going to get the start in Columbia. But an interesting weekend, and I am fascinated to see if Florida can give Georgia a game in Jacksonville tomorrow afternoon.
Speaking of Georgia and teams that expect to be in the playoff, we will do our regularly scheduled college football playoff implications for the upcoming week of college football, or weekend of college football, coming up next.
11 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The New York Jets grabbed their third win of the season on Thursday Night Football with a 21-13 win over the Texans. Aaron Rodgers, 3 touchdown passes, including a circus catch, one-handed by Garrett Wilson. C.J. Stroud was sacked 8 times on the night as Houston goes to 6-3. The Nashville Predators returned home with the loss on Thursday, 5-1 to the Edmonton Oilers. Preds are 3-6-1. They will host the Avalanche tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Titans host the Patriots on Sunday. Calvin Ridley back to being a full participant at practice on Thursday. Tony Pollard, L'Jarius Sneed, Tyler Boyd, and Dylan Radins among the players that did not practice. Will Levis limited again with the shoulder injury. He told media it will be his decision on if he is healthy enough to play on Sunday. Brian Callahan will give an injury update today after 12 o'clock. Meanwhile, in New England, Drake May limited again at practice after a concussion that he suffered last weekend. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour on this Friday. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks to Cole Kublik, who joined us in hour number 1. You can check out the podcast if you missed that. We also have Coach Mack here in about 20 minutes. We have Mike Giardi to preview the Toilet Bowl at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. Titans hosting the Patriots and all the fun that will bring. In the meantime, we got week 10 of the college football season. We've got just a few days to go until the first actual college football playoff rankings come out, according to the 12 people who will be tasked with selecting them in this first round through. Tennessee obviously hoping to be firmly entrenched in that top 12 with whatever they're able to do against Kentucky this week. But there are many games with college football implications, college football playoff implications on the board. Where would you like to start?
Let's start with elimination games, and I mean actual elimination games, not Danny Cannell saying LSU is eliminated for picking up their second loss, where they could very feasibly win out, go 10-2, and find a way in with a solid resume.
Have you ever had that happen to you? You say something very, very definitively on the internet, only to be found out, only to be told moments later by many, many people that you were very, very wrong about this thing, and you just would have taken, maybe an extra 5 seconds to Google it.
Probably. I know it's happened to you.
It has happened to me.
For sure.
Shout out Argentina.
Actual Uruguay. Actual elimination games. If you know, you know, right? Ole Miss at Arkansas. An Ole Miss loss would eliminate them from the college football playoff discussion. Now, their path is difficult, but here's the thing about Ole Miss and why they are not eliminated. They are eliminated in your eyes right now with 2 losses because you believe that they will probably lose to Georgia, right? That they will probably drop another game, but you don't know that. If Ole Miss were to win out, go 10-2, would we be surprised? Yeah, we probably would, but that would also mean that their resume is extremely impressive if they were to beat Arkansas on the road, Georgia at home, Florida on the road, and then Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl to finish out the season. That 10-2 resume, to me, would put Ole Miss in the playoff most likely. They are at Arkansas. If we're putting together the rooting guide for Tennessee fans, you want Arkansas to win this game. You want the teams that you have played this year to look as good as possible because NC State and Oklahoma are not doing that for you. So an Arkansas win against Ole Miss would do 2 things. It would make that Arkansas loss look a little bit better, and it would go ahead and take Ole Miss out of that discussion in terms of being a Tennessee fan and looking at other teams around you fall along the way. Louisville is at Clemson. I guess we could struggle to call this an elimination game because Clemson could drop this game. It would be their second loss. A 2-loss non-conference champion ACC team ain't getting in. But Clemson, I suppose, feasibly could still get into the ACC title game and win the ACC title game and be one of those automatic berths.
ACC is weird this year.
It is. It really is. And I'm starting to wonder if the ACC is going to be a one-bid league. We might need to get ACC truther Robert Walsh in here next week after these results play out.
ECU's not in the ACC.
Right, but Robert Walsh is from ACC country, and he is an ACC truther. We did that while you were gone. Thrilling radio to have Robert in here pining for the ACC as the best conference.
I'm sure that's not true at all.
In all of college football. And then Pitt speaking of ACC teams.
God, how much were you reaching while I was gone to just try and get somebody to talk to you?
But wait till you hear the terrible open that we outsourced.
Oh, my God.
Pitt is undefeated.
That we outsourced. Couldn't even do that.
Undefeated Pittsburgh is at 7-1 SMU. So if SMU catches a loss, we can stop talking about them probably as a playoff contender. But a game that is of more consequence than those, Ohio State at Penn State. Who do you think faces more pressure in this game?
Oh, Ryan Day.
Ryan Day?
Oh, yes.
Right? I mean, for James Franklin,
is
it's about...
Penn State favored?
Great question. What do you think?
I would not expect so. I would expect Ohio State would be favored over Penn State.
I'm looking at the ESPN site, so it has the ESPN bet spread, which is Ohio State -3 in Happy Valley.
What did it open at?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, if James Franklin is not favored in a game, then he's not going to win the game.
He'll just continue to be
and
James
the
Franklin.
expectation, isn't that Pate's whole thing?
Yeah.
Like James Franklin is the most expectation coach in the history of college football.
His whole thing is Franklin, everybody calls him overrated, but no, he is the most properly rated. He is what he is coaching college football.
Because during Thursday Night Football last night, while watching the Jets suffer, I mean, they won, but suffered to a win is a fair assessment of the Jets game over the Texans last night. I put out on Twitter at some point, does any fan base in America actively hate their team as much as Jets fans hate the Jets? And very quickly, our buddy Travis Rockhold, famous Ohio State fan, responded and said, OSU fans would like a word. So they are perpetually miserable. They are perpetually unhappy. I mean, it is knives out all the time in Columbus, it feels like.
It is. It's a toxic environment up there, but...
It has been on multiple fronts, multiple times.
And look, they should be disappointed with how Ohio State played against Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska had a path to winning that game, and that would have been a shockingly embarrassing loss at home. But you're right. Ryan Day faces way more pressure here. Penn State could lose this game and then have a very, very feasible path to the playoff by winning out and going 11-1.
Also, is Drew Aller going to play?
I don't know. And
which makes me think, Ohio State did the press. If Aller is even in question, then of course the pressure is 10 times greater on Ohio State.
He has looked comfortable in practice this week, and it seems like the sentiment coming from Happy Valley is that Aller is good to go and will play, but his backup, Bo Pribula, really highly recruited player out of York, PA, came in and did the job against Wisconsin. But, man, the meltdown in Columbus, if Ohio State were to lose to a backup quarterback at Penn State. That's a big noon kickoff, so 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox. But, yes, Ohio State, without a doubt, under more pressure here. They cannot take this loss and be a two-loss team.
So, like you said, to go back to the first game, the first couple of games, Ole Miss, I feel like they are the most set up to lose out of any of these teams. Their offensive line is terrible. Arkansas's defense should be able to give them legitimate problems and bog that offense down. I mean, it's been, and again, Pro Football Focus ratings are not the end-all be-all. They are not the final word. But if you look at offensive line grades since week 5, so in the last 4 weeks of college football over the course of the last month, Ole Miss is, as a unit, an offensive line group, 127th. As a pass blocking group, 109th. As a pressure percentage group, 128th. I mean, they are horrible at this point, or at least to date in the last month, they have been terrible. So if your rooting guide for Tennessee fans involves Ole Miss, then I would look at Ole Miss as the most susceptible out of any of these games that you're going to offer.
You know who Ole Miss's offensive scheme is similar to? Tennessee's. Arkansas shut down that Tennessee offense. Mississippi State, bad football team, but similar scheme. Arkansas dismantled Mississippi State last weekend. So that defense has played really, really well against that Josh Heupel, Baylor era type of offense. And that's what they get at home this weekend. Man, the next couple games for Arkansas, Ole Miss at home, Texas at home. Last time Texas went up to Fayetteville, Arkansas won and stormed the field, reviving that old Southwest Conference rivalry. That game will be in 2 weeks. Arkansas is off next week.
I just look forward to them beating somebody that they have no business beating and breaking some hearts in the meantime. Arkansas seems to be best at that above anything else lately.
Sure. Absolutely. So Henry on the F&M Bank chat says, Jackson Dart going to carve up Arkansas. We'll see.
He has to have time. I mean, he can't carve him up if he's on his back.
We will see. And that Kentucky loss at home by Ole Miss looks worse and worse as the season moves along.
So, the college football playoff implications, going back to the ACC conversation, because it's not just what you mentioned earlier. This Pittsburgh-SMU game is also interesting. Famous ACC power SMU. They're both top 20. The winner would become the biggest challenger to either Miami and Clemson in the ACC, no? So it's not an elimination game, but it's a stay-alive game to push for, at least a berth in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, and Miami is not marked safe this weekend because they host a very pesky Duke team that was this close to knocking off SMU last weekend. An overtime loss, blocked field goal, crazy game. SMU turned it over 6 times. Probably should not have gone to OT, but Manny Diaz done a great job with that Duke program this year, but Miami's playing some really good football right now. You can say whatever about their strength of schedule, but since that Virginia Tech controversy with the officiating at the end of that game on a Friday night, they've played some really good football. I mean, the massive comeback against Cal felt like a big turning point for them, too. Right now, at the top of the ACC standings, Clemson is 6-0, but they're only at the top because they are 5-0 in conference play. Miami has had their bye. They are 4-0 in conference play. And SMU also undefeated in conference play. Oh, and so is Pitt. So the ACC may not get a lot of teams in, but the race at the top of the ACC, that's what makes the race at the top of that conference that much more interesting.
We expect Georgia to be able to handle Florida, but we'll see. That game is always competitive. Iowa State is off to a historic start. They're one of the biggest surprises in college football this year. They've got Texas Tech this weekend, so we'll see what the outcome of that, what impact that has on the college football playoff rankings. And then we mentioned earlier with Cole, Texas A&M, the only undefeated team in conference play in the SEC, is at South Carolina, which could cause problems. They certainly ruffled Alabama's feathers. I don't know if Texas A&M might experience those same struggles. Fun weekend of college football.
Very fun weekend. I'm slowly turning to where I believe I might actually be supporting your Indiana Hoosiers because let's say
bandwagon's full. I took up the last spot.
Let's say
actually, no, Dawn's daughter took up the last spot. It would say.
Well, I don't care about bandwagon or not bandwagon. I just care about what's best for my team. And let's say Ohio State loses to Penn State. Then in that case, man, I would love for Indiana to go up to Columbus on the second to last week of the regular season.
Oh, nothing would give me greater joy.
Put the nail in the coffin of Ohio State season at 9-3.
So many insufferable Ohio State fans. It would make my year to know that Indiana went to the Horseshoe and ended their playoff hopes. It would give me great joy. Great joy. They have to beat Michigan State. I think they're on the road this weekend at Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken. And Curtis Rourke is expected to be back. So we'll see what he does coming off of that thumb surgery for the mighty Hoosiers. All right. Coming up next, Coach Dave McGinnis will join us. We'll talk about these two teams that are going to play at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. The Titans are hosting the Patriots. The Titans should be able to beat an imminently beatable team. We'll talk about the decision-making that goes into an injury around a quarterback with Coach Mack coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is how you can join the conversation. In the meantime, Coach Dave McGinnis will join the conversation here momentarily. We can talk some college ball with Mac, as well as get ready for Titans and Patriots this Sunday at Nissan Stadium. We'll be out there. Weather should be nice. Pregame should be fun. Pregame's always fun with Blaine and Brad and Kayla out there outside of Gate 3. So if you're hanging out at the Ron Slay tailgate, you're having a good time. If you're hanging out outside of the stadium tailgating, come hang out and say hi to us. And, of course, you can hear Coach Mack and the rest of the Titans radio crew starting at 11 a.m. with Titans Countdown, leading up to the kickoff between the Titans and the Patriots on Sunday. Happy Friday, Mac.
Yeah. Hey, Buck. How you doing? Hope you had a good Halloween.
Yes. Did you get trick-or-treaters?
No, I had to go do an event at 6th and Peabody, and so I took a big jar of Snickers and put them on the front porch, and they were all gone when I got home.
Do you think that they followed the instruction of one per person, or do you think one person just took the entire jar of Snickers?
I didn't put any instructions on there because I know nobody would follow it. So I just put them all out there, and I wanted them to be gone, and they were gone. And
did you also take said jar of Snickers from the Titans radio studio? Because I believe I saw you with your hand at least in the Snickers jar during an OTP taping recently.
I've never, ever once told our audience anything that's not true. Yes, I took the whole jar. I told them I was going to, though.
Is that the go-to for you, Coach Mack, the Halloween candy, Snickers?
Well, yeah, I mean it's a good go-to, but I mean it was there, and plus they were the large-sized bars, and so I mean you hand out large-sized bars, people are going to come to your door.
Correct.
I can relate so much to it was there as a large, sizable portion of my eating habits.
Oh, that's basically how you go through life. It was there. 615. So Coach Max visits presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So, Mac, no official determination made on the quarterback just yet, though Brian Callahan's speaking about an hour. We'll see what he says. Levis said something interesting yesterday, and I wonder if you could give us your perspective, having gone through these situations with all variety of different players, not just quarterbacks. But Levis essentially said, they're going to leave it up to me to tell them, to be honest with them on how good I actually feel as to whether I can go out there on Sunday. And I imagine that conversation is ongoing throughout the course of the week with these players as you try to figure out, okay, are they healthy enough to at least put us in a good position to where we can win the game without hindering us with whatever they're not able to do based on the injury?
Well, yeah, and dealing with professional athletes, I mean, you have to be able to trust them, and plus, I mean, they know the longer that they've been at it, the more adept they are at telling you that. Now, all of them will tell you that they want to play, and so you have to really know the person and trust them, and they have to trust you, and plus, you get to know the player. I've done this several times, and there's instances where early on when a player is younger, where you as a coach and with the experience that you have to sometimes protect the player from themselves in cases where they just they insist that they can go, and just by watching them through the week that they're not going to be able to go. The thing that I always went on, if a player was not able to, depending on skill set, was not able to protect themselves, though, that was something that you always had in the back of your mind, because as fast as things move, regardless of what position you're playing, but it all comes down to trust, basically, when you're dealing with players in the professional level, is can you go and then show me what you can do during the week, and let's press it to a point as to where you're close to competitive speed as we can get in the practice. All of that stuff has to come into being, but you have to be able to trust the player to tell you the truth too.
Then at that point, Coach, are you keeping in mind the injury to any extent when it comes to scheme and calling the game in live action? Or if the player tells you he's good, then it's full go and you roll out the whole playbook no matter what?
Well, it depends on what position they're playing and how much they're going to be involved, because you're not only talking about the Lucas starting players, you're talking about key rotational players too. that have entered into this in my coaching career, because depending on what you need their job to be. I mean, if you need somebody to be a 60 or 65 snap a game player, well, then clearly, you want to know because you don't ever know at which time in the ball game. I mean, that they need to be at full speed the whole time. Others, if you're only going to spot play them, well, then you can kind of trim it and spot play them depending on how they fit into your scheme. So I think it's different per player, and also it's different as to what they're doing.
Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on this Friday. His visits across the station presented by Two Rivers Ford also make Mac Talk possible on a regular basis. And, of course, he'll be on the call on Sunday for the Titans and the Patriots. You can hear it right here on 104.5 The Zone. So, team looking to put together a complete performance, right, Mac? That's kind of been a struggle for them on a variety of different fronts throughout the course of the year. Special teams, obviously the biggest talking point coming out of that Detroit Lions defeat. Really difficult to – I mean, your defense is expected to perform. All players and coaches are expected to perform, but pretty impossible situation when you have that many opportunities inside of the, your opponent's 26-yard line to score.
Well, but your defensive mindset, and that's the way it always is, and that's a sudden change mindset that all defensive coordinators and all defensive teams, try to employ, and you like to think, because each time you go out there, it's different. It's not an impossibility. What you're trying to do is force them to kick field goals, and what you're not trying to do is give up a touchdown every time, and that's the issue, and I promise you, in all the defensive meetings I've ever been in, I know these defensive meetings here. I'm not in them, but I would assume that as a defensive coach, for a long time in this league, you never accepted the fact that you were put into an impossible situation. Some situations you were put into were a little more tenuous than others, but you always felt like you could go out there and at least, especially if it's a sudden change in the plus territory, you were going to do some things to make them at least kick at a field goal, and that's always the mark that you talk about.
These two teams mirror themselves a little bit, not just in terms of the struggles that they've had this season, but also in terms of what they do well as an offensive unit. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson is one of the toughest runners, I think, in the NFL right now, Mac. And he's been one of the bright spots for New England so far this year and in his career.
Yeah, he's a physical runner, and he always has been. I mean, he's a guy that can carry a really, really heavy dose of running the football. He's a very, very compact runner. He's very strong. I mean, he can bore it down in there, time after time after time. So you're absolutely right. I mean, he's a huge part of what they're doing offensively, and it's and to me, he's there. You talk about bell cows for the team as far as guys that are going to lead the charge on the ground. He is theirs. You're 100% right.
Wait, not sure who exactly to expect at quarterback on Sunday, though it seems less likely that it's going to be Drake May, given the concussion circumstance. Jacoby Brissett obviously started the year for them and then has been in a reserves role since then. Mac, it feels like with Brissett, who is a quality backup quarterback, certainly, but is a backup for a reason. Sometimes it feels like, and you'll tell me if I'm off the mark on this, but it feels like he leaves a lot of throws on the field. This should be an advantage for the Titans defense to try and put Jacoby Brissett in disadvantageous situations.
Well, I mean, they're not going to change the structure of their offense, for whichever one is in there. They're just not going to do that. Jacoby Brissett has really made a nice career out of being a starter, and then, as you said, being a quality backup. The thing with being a quality backup, he's got experience. He's seen a lot of it. But the key to that is you don't have two completely. Now you've got two guys that are different as far as age and experience in the league, but as far as what they ask them to do within the structure of that offense, it really doesn't change much. And that is what you're looking at. And we don't know which one of them is going to start. You're right. I mean, I watched that last game pretty closely and watched, May, he got hurt, then he went back in, and then he went back into the game, then went back for a reevaluation, and then all of a sudden went into the locker room and you never saw him again. So to the extent of what that is, when you keep up with the transactions during the week or the reports from the camp during the week, is that he is working through the concussion protocol, that he has been limited in work. So, but you're 100% right. You don't know which one to expect, but as I said, the bones of the offense really doesn't change regardless of who the quarterback is for this group.
Coach, defensively for the Patriots, Gerard Mayo obviously had a heavy hand in that defense when he was on Bill Belichick's staff. But now with Mayo as the head coach, do you see any different wrinkles in what the Patriots like to do defensively as opposed to what they did before under Belichick?
Well, the DNA is still what they did under Belichick. It's still got the DNA, but yes, there are some different things that they do, especially pressure-wise, that you didn't see from Belichick. You know, I've coached against Coach Belichick for a lot of years, and his defenses were always, you're pretty steady. You knew what to do. The DNA of traveling somebody with the best receiver, Gonzalez is going to travel with Ridley. I mean, I can just about guarantee that he will travel, and then away from him, he'll do like Bill always did. He'll double the second guy that they think is the most dangerous with the stuff in the air. But I think a little bit of the stuff that I've seen differently, just, watching 5 or 6 games this year, is that maybe the pressure game is a little bit different than it was during the years under Belichick.
Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Mac, with the show Coach to Coach that we always enjoy listening to with Coach Doug Matthews, obviously you guys focus on the Southeastern Conference. Tennessee got a big game coming up this weekend against Kentucky. We talked to Cole Kublik, who's on the call for this game for SEC Network earlier in the show, and about just why it hasn't worked for Brock Vandergriff in that Kentucky offense. And I wonder what your perspective is on that as a defensive-minded coach.
Well, first of all, Coach Stoops has been very successful there, but the thing that he's had, you start looking at the number of offensive coordinators that he has cycled through in his time there, and quarterback development, really, just because you've had so many different changes in offensive coordinators has kind of been, at least if you want to talk about any hiccups that Stoops has had there at Kentucky, and he's been wildly successful there. You always know it's going to be a physical football team. The defense, is going to be able to keep them in ball games. But to me, it's just uneven this year. It's just uneven play when you look at the tape from the quarterback situation. And I don't know how much that has to do with it. It has to have something to do with it as far as changing coordinators pretty frequently, offensively. So that would be my guess just off the surface level, having not talked to anybody else about it. Cole would know better because he's dialed into those, those teams really, really closely. But to me, if you're changing your coordinators, quite a bit, it kind of lends itself to having a hard time being smooth all the way through.
He is Coach Mack. He will be on the call with the rest of the Titans radio crew on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. Titans back at home for the first time in a couple of weeks, hosting the Patriots and looking to get their second win on the season. Mac, I expect there will be a lot of candy up in the Titans radio booth on Sunday. It sounds like a lot of us have leftover candy, so I look forward to seeing you there, and hopefully you brought your sweet tooth.
I'll be there, but I won't have any Snickers because everybody took them off the front porch.
Thanks, Mac.
See you guys.
That's the main man, Coach Dave.
But he is the main
It
Mac.
is also the main Mac.
Yeah,
sure.
I can't think of another one.
Mac Jones.
The hell with Ronald McDonald.
Again, we talked about this. They've kind of run him off since clowns have become more and more scary here in the last couple of years.
Yeah, clowns are definitely very prominent in the horror genre, not so much in the, get people to buy stuff genre anymore.
Did you ever have a family member that had a thing with clowns? Like, I feel like there are some people in some people's families, like some, maybe it's a great aunt or a second cousin or something like that like collects like clown related stuff, whether it be little figurines or clown plates or stuff like that.
No, it sounds like a cause to need therapy later in life.
Yeah, R.I.P. Aunt Margaret. The clown collection, I don't know where it is at this point. I assume it's in a storage unit somewhere, hopefully, probably terrifying somebody in their sleep. 615-737-1045 is the number. I just don't know how else to pivot to this game because it does feel like it could be a bit of a clown show.
Friday Fire, we got Creed tickets coming up next.
Very unenthused golf clap
yet.
for you.
I got 3 more minutes to talk about this game, and I don't know what else to say besides they better damn win.
Well, we put it to a poll, and I guess we'll talk about it. We'll really get the perspective from Mike Giardi, who's up there. But we put it to a poll: which fan base is having less fun in 2024, Titans or Patriots?
Oh, it has to be the Patriots, right? They've just done so much winning in their lives that they just probably can't even process what it is that's happening.
But we knew this would be the case, right?
I don't know, man. Do Boston sports fans strike you as people that are just cool with being like, yeah, we knew, without still just burying them at every turn?
I would hope.
Giardi will join us at 12:20.
Yeah, I'm genuinely interested
Hopefully
because
he brought his sad boy radio hat. I've got mine on today.
You're right that place now has this impossible standard that what does Pate call Alabama fans that are like 30 years old or younger, trust fund fans? Same goes for New England fans, right? That are around that age group. They're trust fund fans. That is their expectation. Anything less than competing for Super Bowls is shockingly embarrassing. But I am genuinely curious because anybody around the NFL would tell you the Patriots weren't going to be good this year. The personnel is not good on offense. You're breaking in a rookie quarterback that hasn't played a ton of football and a first-time head coach in Gerard Mayo. So you look at the Patriots with 2 wins to this point and say, yeah, that's about right. It doesn't mean that everything is burn it down. It was always going to be a process there. But with the Titans, obviously, we've talked about it. The whole selling point of the offseason was, yeah, this is a rebuild, but let's be competitive along the way. And that's the part that hasn't happened.
Yeah, I can't imagine listening to Boston sports radio right now. Although the Celtics won the championship, so you figure that they're probably in a decent mood. But we'll get the vibes. We'll do a little sad boy radio crossover with Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal here in just a little bit. There are some contingent of fans who I think are just looking to see Levis out there because it'll be more entertaining. But I don't know. I feel like this is one of those games where you're talking about proof of concept. Like, just give us something to look at and say, okay, you can beat one of the worst teams in the league. You should be able to do this.
Titans are a more talented team than the New England Patriots.
This bar is not that high. Like, This is one of these. It's not. If Levis plays, it is obviously a huge talking point. Levis will be a huge part of the discourse. But we are also now into the portion of the season as we get ready to eclipse the halfway point where the scrutiny is just as much on the coaching staff. And they have to show, after a week where they looked at several different stages pretty unprepared for what was going to be presented to them, they need to show that they can out-prepare and out-coach a coaching staff that is in a very similar situation from them. You have to show it at some point. I don't know how many more opportunities they're going to get to show it based on the way that they've performed to this date in the season. I mean, you don't expect them to sweep the Jags, do you? I don't think you should. The Jags are also terrible. But, that's not a given. The Texans are struggling, but do you believe that this team is capable of capitalizing on the Texans' injuries and struggles after they had basically the first month of the season gifted to them in terms of the injury line?
Yeah, no, I believe that the team is capable. That's the whole thing with this team. That's why the start is disappointing, but they have to show it at some point. And Sunday is as golden an opportunity as they've had so far this season to show it. Beat a team you're more talented than on your home field.
Because they haven't won at home yet either. That's the other part of this. Some comments from the F&M Bank chat where you can also interact with the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Volek for president on YouTube says, I think it's harder for us than it is for Patriots fans because we expected things would be better. Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
I'm certain that the discourse in New England was, we know they're going to suck, but we're still going to pile on them anyway. Do I have things to give away?
Yes, 2 tickets to see Creed next Friday at Bridgestone Arena.
All you have to do is not do that into a phone receiver because I'm sure people would try, but you have to give us your Friday fire. What made you feel good this week? Surely somewhere out there is some feel good, personal, professional, sports related, or otherwise. 615-737-1045 is the number. Give us your Friday fire. Coming up next. For the opportunity to win 2 tickets to the Creed show at Bridgestone Arena. Jackson, when is that date? Because they also who else is playing with Creed? It's not just Creed, because I thought about going to the show over the Ascend Amphitheater. I mean, the Paralyzer, what's the Finger 11 sings the Paralyzer song?
Finger 11 and Tonic opened for Creed when we saw them, and they were both fun.
Tonic was not fun.
Tonic was fun.
Respectfully, Tonic.
Tonic was fun.
No, you could feel the atmosphere in the air was, please stop singing. Let's get to the Paralyzer song.
No, that's just you. That's just you. Tonic has good music. They apparently, I think their bass player is the son of Aerosmith's number 2 guitarist, not Joe Perry, and they brought him out. They brought him out to play Sweet Emotion with his son and the whole band. Tonic was fun.
Anyway, when's the concert, Jackson, at Bridgestone Arena?
Friday, November 8th, a week from today.
Friday, November 8th. For the opportunity to win some Creed tickets, just give us your Friday Fire, 615-737-1045, and we will send you to Creed. Mine is Lauren Walsh, who we mentioned from WSMV yesterday. She dressed up as the greatest of all time. She dressed up as Jim Wyatt for Halloween. She had the visor, she had the pencil, she had the glasses. She did seem to roll the bottom of her pants, which I was not familiar with as a Jimmy Wyatt move, but neither here nor there. It was excellent. And then she ended her interview with Jim Wyatt on WSMV last night by saying, "We're Jim Wyatt, back to you in the studio," which I thought was particularly clever. So well done by Lauren Walsh. That was good. That was good TV. Good classic local TV bit. I appreciate that.
Interviewing Jim as Jim is phenomenal
After
stuff.
the Dodgers win and Vandy's frisky and the Titans
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame, a big thing for Jimmy. Obviously, he would like for the Titans to do a little better, so he has more interesting things to write about.
My Friday Fire is also Halloween related. It is Macaulay Culkin, who dressed up as Joe Burrow for Halloween. There is a likeness there. If you have not noticed that, just look up pictures of both guys. You will see it immediately. Adam Schefter tweeted out.
Doesn't he look like kind of like a malnourished Burrow a little bit? His face is a little thinner, like a little gaunter around the cheeks.
He's significantly older, yes. But I just love this from Macaulay Culkin. He put it on his Instagram. Adam Schefter tweeted out screenshots. The caption is just "balls in your court, Joey B." And it's like split screen pictures of Joe Burrow and Culkin wearing a Burrow jersey.
You don't think they get mistaken for one another, do you? Do you think anybody's ever walked up to Joe Burrow and been like, "Oh my God, I love doing Home Alone"? I would love that. Not even recognizing me as Joe Burrow, just...
I really hope so.
A mom in her 40s or something like that being like, "Oh my God, Macaulay Culkin."
I really hope so.
On the streets of Cincinnati.
Culkin is 44, Burrow's 27. So there is an age gap there. But that was really good stuff from Macaulay Culkin. That's my Friday Fire.
Jackson?
I'm going to hijack this for a Dalton Connect update. He's my Friday Fire. Scored a career high 18 points on Wednesday for the Lake Show in a 134-110 loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
In a loss, you're giving me a stat line?
Yes, because it's a career high, and he's going to take over the NBA.
His career started 4 games ago or whatever.
Who cares about the result?
This is an individual sport, not a team sport, correct?
Exactly.
I'm not going to let the two of you hijack this just because Dalton Connect plays for a bad Lakers team. I won't.
They are not bad. They are average. Get it right.
Bronny scored his first career points, didn't he?
Oh, good.
Yes, in Cleveland, which I also think is cool. There's positive moments to take out from a
Aren't the
blowout
Cavs
loss.
one of the best teams in basketball right now in the early going? So you're celebrating Dalton Connect's stat line in a loss to the team that LeBron left in shambles and has since rebuilt and been better without him.
And Bronny's first point. I'll throw Bronny in as an honorable mention.
Excellent. Well done by you. Excellent Friday Fire. 615-737-1. You're really bringing it back there today. I got to tell you, bud, you're really having a bang-up show today.
No, I don't. No, that was a good Friday Fire.
That was a terrible Friday.
That was
funny.
a fantastic
At the very
Friday
least,
Fire.
It was funny.
A point, a stat line, and a damn loss.
It's a good Friday Fire.
Let's see if Eric or Buffalo or Trent can't win these Creed tickets with better submissions. Eric is first.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Actually, to piggyback off Jackson's, did y'all see Bronny got to take the net on the goal that he scored his first points in Cleveland back home with him? So that was a cool gesture by the Cavs.
No, damn it, they lost. No, he doesn't get to cut down the nets after a loss. No, get out of here.
I know.
You and Jackson, get him out of here.
Has that ever happened in NBA history?
So mad.
Where a player cuts down the nets for his first points?
You know, I kind of got a little irritated with, like, did you see Michelle Beadle after the first game where she called the whole Bronny James thing manufactured? Because it was manufactured, whatever. Like, I get it. And I was like, all right, just enjoy the moment. And now I'm sick of it. I won't tolerate that. That cannot be a Friday Fire submission. Get out.
Thank you for the call, Eric.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Get out of here. Trent is next.
Hey, what's up, Buck? Lucas, how you doing?
Good.
Man, my Friday Fire is about my son's AU baseball team. They moved up to AU in August and proceeded to make this season at 31-0, undefeated, which is unheard of for baseball in general. And by the way, Macaulay Culkin is like prehab for Joe Burrow because he is an example of what Joe Burrow would look like if he did a lot of drugs.
Yes, I would also go with. I went with malnourished. It felt more kind. I don't know what Macaulay Culkin's drug history is. There might be some problems there.
He seems to have straightened out. It looks like he's in a good spot.
Did he have child star struggles? I don't remember specifically.
Yeah, he's like the poster child for child star.
Oh, really?
struggles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He just say,
now I feel bad.
He looks like Joe Burrow if Joe Burrow was a child star, right? Like, but he isn't. You know who he's
survived child stardom?
Do you know
Yes, it
who,
ages you tremendously.
There's a lot of trauma there.
you know who he's married to? Macaulay Culkin?
Who?
Brenda Song.
From
Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
No.
Yep.
The Disney Channel? She was in a couple of Disney Channel shows. Wasn't she also part of the what's the Miley Cyrus Disney show?
Hannah Montana?
Hannah Montana.
I don't think she was in Hannah Montana.
I thought she was in Hannah Montana. Maybe I'm making things up.
She was in
I also had childhood trauma, so I've blurred out all my television watching, I guess.
She starred in a Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior.
Banger. You know, that's one thing that I know that I'm getting old when I look at Disney Channel movies and be like, they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, Camp Rock. Yeah, they don't make them like they used to.
Buffalo is up next. Hey, buddy.
Little Buck and his childhood trauma. Man, I got a kick out of that. I was gonna go with Devontae getting in my feels last night, getting a catch from old AA Ron Rodgers, but I got to go with that number 5. What's number 5's name? Gardner?
Garrett Wilson.
Oh my God! With the Velcro fingers doing the who Julio Jones or somebody did for the Giants.
OBJ.
Yeah. That catch was amazing. Dragging his shin. You call that the shin touchdown? Come on.
It was good. It was a good one. I like that submission, Buffalo. Thank you for the call. Because it's now between Buffalo and Eric because the other guy.
Yeah, Trent dropped off. We were going to give it to Trent for his son's baseball team. But Buffalo.
I cannot reward Eric's call. I cannot.
I know.
Eric, you can bring it. You can bring it stronger next time, but I will not. I will not capitulate.
Buffalo naming Giants legend Julio Jones isn't enough to.
It's fine. He got a million things wrong there, but I'll give him the tickets anyway because it's better than Bronny James cutting down the net in a loss. Out of here. How did Friday Fire piss me off more? Coming up next, Will Levis, his decision. It's his decision to play. Find out what he said. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you because they've helped so many other guys across the last decade get the help that they need for ED. You don't have to feel like all hope is lost if the pills don't work, and a lot of dudes do. I went out to the Tennessee Men's Clinic to understand more about the different treatment protocols they can offer you if you are somebody who is dealing with ED, because they helped clear up so many different misconceptions as they have for people who come to see them specifically. Because the reality is, if you go to a doctor, they may only have certain treatments and protocols in place. One of those might be irreversible surgery. Please do not take irreversible surgery before you speak with the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They specialize in fixing men's sexual health issues. It's all they do. They are the experts in the field. So go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com today to schedule an appointment at either their Franklin or Midtown location. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
12 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans host the Patriots on Sunday. Calvin Ridley was back to being a full participant at practice on Thursday. Tony Pollard, L'Jarius Sneed, Tyler Boyd, and Dylan Radins were among the players that did not practice. Will Levis limited again with the shoulder injury. He told media it'll be his decision on if he is healthy enough to play Sunday. Brian Callahan will give an injury update today in a few minutes. Meanwhile, in New England, Drake May limited again at practice after a concussion that he suffered last weekend. The League Company countdown to kickoff hits the air at 9 a.m. on The Zone. Titans countdown starts at 10, and kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew is at noon between Titans and Patriots. The Tennessee Vols come out of the bye week wearing the dark mode uniforms to host Kentucky at Neyland Stadium tomorrow night. Kickoff at 6:45. Fall network coverage on The Zone starts at 4:45. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour is upon us. Thanks for hanging out on this Friday. Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal will be here. We'll talk Titans and Patriots. We'll talk about who's more miserable, Boston or Nashville, with the performance of the local professional football teams. But before we get to Sunday's game, we have to figure out who's going to be playing quarterback. Now, at some point during this final hour, Brian Callahan's going to meet with the media. He will update the local reporters on who's in, who's out. And Will Levis is obviously coming off a situation where he's missed 2 straight weeks with the sprained AC joint in his shoulder, in his throwing shoulder. He's talked about a variety of different things, including how badly he wants to be back out there and all the things that he's been doing or not doing to ensure that he can perform whenever it comes time for him to get back out on the field and try not to hinder his team. This was Will Levis in the locker room yesterday talking about not just the opportunity to play or potentially not play against the Pats, but also documenting what he's been doing to get right.
I feel good. It's been a long process, but we'll see for Sunday. It's been frustrating, but feel like I'm finally starting to get to a point where I'm comfortable with.
Feel more likely than not likely you'll be able to go Sunday?
I don't know. To be determined. We'll see. Yeah.
I know the big thing was throwing in back-to-back games. You got to do that. How is that been?
Yeah, good. That's part of the process is dealing with the recovery and the fatigue and that. So it was good to get out there and throw it around a little bit today, and felt pretty good.
Ryan and Nick said that they're pushing you a little bit more this time around than they did before the game, just to kind of see what the shoulder feels like. Has that been, I guess, more helpful for you to know how you're feeling as you try to make a determination of what you can and can't do?
For sure. I want to see myself, make all the throws that I know I'm capable of before I go out there and, do the real thing. So they're doing it the right way, I think, and I'm, just doing it the best that I can.
Will, how do you take this time when you are on the sideline, dealing with the injury, to look at maybe the game and what's happening from a different perspective?
Yeah, no, I think it allows you to take in more and focus on other aspects of the game that you might not really be able to put as much focus in if you're actually in the heat of it and playing. So that's been fun. And then, still just being the leader and, the captain that I am for this team and being the best that I can on the sidelines for all the groups. So still approaching, I have approached each of these past few weeks, as if I'm playing and how I'm involving myself in the meetings and everything. So I feel like I've gotten a lot better even though I haven't played over the last few weeks.
What do you feel like your strength will look like this fan? Does that make this week? I know you always want to play, but knowing that's the opponent.
Yeah, no, I was a big Patriots fan growing up, and it's definitely as cool to be playing against the team that you were once cheering for. So, that's in the past, though, and I'm not going to let that, affect my decision.
How you feeling strength-wise in the shoulder? Does it feel like it's getting back to where it needs to be?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of improvement the last couple of weeks. And like I said, that's just what I'm trying to get is that strength and ability to make the throws that I know I'm capable of, and I feel good, and we just got to see for Sunday.
Do you feel like it is your decision?
Yeah, no, it is. I think that it's hard for me to make that decision for myself. Obviously with going and playing against Indy, and that in retrospect not being the best decision of not stepping up and saying something. But it is. These coaches just made it very clear to me that I need to be honest with how I'm feeling, so that the right decision can be made.
How do you gauge if a throw is up to your standard? What do you look at to kind of see if it's where it needs to be?
Mechanics-wise, I can go back and watch the tape just from a few weeks ago and see how my range of motion, how the ball is coming out, the exit window of my balls, and just seeing the lengthening and the strengthening of the rehab that I've been doing. So just seeing the results of certain throws, the mechanics of how I'm throwing it. And, I like I said, I know I'm capable of. I know what it feels like when I'm ripping the ball and then it's coming out of my hand the right way. It's a feel thing more than anything.
All right, so that's Will Levis yesterday in the locker room. I feel like I've been pretty clear on this. I'm good with it being, I'm good with it starting to be in a spot where they are considering options beyond Will Levis in 2025. But they still have 10 weeks to play, and Will Levis is still on the roster and could still be on the roster depending on how they handle the situation in the offseason. Is there anybody out there who is still looking at this guy like, all right, you could show me something in the last 10 weeks that could make me have to strongly reconsider the decision of whether or not Will Levis should be the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans beyond 2024? Because New England would not be that breakthrough moment. I mean, I guess he could look really good in the game, better than he's looked all year. And that might change the discourse a little bit. But if they go out there and beat New England and he does it with a stat line that looks like his stat lines have looked this year, are people going to take that as a turning point for Will Levis? Or are they going to say, yeah, you beat a bad football team?
No, I think some people would. If he went out and had a good performance, didn't turn the ball over for the first time this year, was efficient, was moving the ball, absolutely. We would field some calls. Titans Talk Back would hear some calls saying, yeah, I think maybe there could be a turnaround here. That would happen. That would be a reaction. So just like he was given the season, he should be given the opportunity to turn around a bad start to the season. And clearly he will when he's healthy, and that sounds like it's up to him. One thing I will say, though, if Will Levis tells the coaching staff, I'm good, and has struggles or throws a couple interceptions, what's one thing you don't want to hear in the postgame locker room or postgame press conference?
I thought I could have gotten a better ball on Calvin Ridley before I threw that interception because my shoulder wasn't
exactly. Exactly. So,
and Mac, we asked Mac about this earlier. Coach Mac has obviously been in a position to talk to players about whether or not they should be out there to play in NFL games, both as a position coach, a coordinator, and a head coach. So you have to be able to trust the players. Now, Will Levis's decision-making is not something that you overwhelmingly trust, but Will Levis, the person, has not done anything to make them distrust. Well, not anything to our knowledge, nor would I indicate that there might be something out there. He seems to be a very transparent person, and there is something to the idea of, all right, young quarterback probably needs to go through one of these situations to realize, oh, no, I actually can't play in this game, even though I thought that I would be able to, for him to be a better judge of his own body, right? Now, Levis has played through injury before. I mean, that's a huge part of the discourse around him in 2022 was, all right, is he bad or is he just playing through injury or is it both or is it how bad the roster is around him? All these things that made the final year evaluation of Will Levis a little bit trickier. They've got to be able to trust him. He's got to be as honest as humanly possible, not just with them, but with himself. Because, of course, every athlete comes with that competitive nature. No, I can go out there and do this. I give my team the best chance to win football games because that's who you've been your entire life for the most part, until, obviously recently.
Well, you don't want him to be pressing, right, where that pressure starts to ramp up of, oh, I have to show something. It's week 9. And then that starts to impact things, and maybe he'd be more willing to come back sooner than he should. I don't know, but that's kind of the product of a tough start to the season. Titans have not one turnover margin yet in a game this season. That's got to happen against New England. And if Levis plays, he has to be a big part of that. Just show everybody for one game you can take care of the football.
That is such a depressing.
I mean, the only two games where the Titans have forced turnovers are Miami and Indianapolis, and they were even on turnover margin in both of those games because Levis had an interception in both of those games. So one turnover apiece. So they've been even a couple times, but they have not been on the plus side of turnover margin
that would be
this season.
That would directly lead to an advantage. If you don't have that many advantages elsewhere on the field, you could try and win the turnover battle. I mean, but here's the thing about it, because it's not just as simple. I mean, they have 2 turnovers on the year. They have that backwards pass recovery by Arden Key, and they have an interception off Joe Flacco. The only interception, ironically, that Joe Flacco's thrown all year. He's got 7 touchdowns and 1 pick to Amani Hooker. They only have 2 turnovers. A big part of that is they don't disrupt the quarterback. Like with the pass rush, they don't disrupt the quarterback, so it's harder to create turnovers if you're not getting a consistent, not even sacking the quarterback regularly, but just bothering them back there. They struggle. I don't want people to get into this mindset, though, as a fan base, because I don't think. I mean, sometimes you have to worry about players with this. Christian Fulton was a great example of that. Christian Fulton to get himself out of position because he's in a contract year. He's hunting turnovers. And a lot of times, if you're pressing, then you're playing outside of the scheme, and you're not putting yourself in a position to capitalize on the turnovers when they may come your way. You're just trying to manufacture something that is arguably the hardest thing to just outright create in football. Like, turnovers are not that replicable in certain situations. You just have to be able to capitalize on them when they come your way. So there's a couple of things here. And you know, the defense, is that the defense's fault? Yeah, I guess. But it's just so hard for me to put an overwhelming amount of blame on the defense when I've seen them get undermined by the offense and the special teams on 2 different fronts. That makes their jobs infinitely harder to do. Though I know that's not the mindset that a defensive coach has. I know that's not the mindset that a defensive football player has, right? You're still tasked with holding them to field goals as opposed to touchdowns. But I mean, like, I don't know what it's the first time I felt bad for like a Titans unit watching that defense have to trot back out there after the offense would score points. And then all of a sudden, Khalif Raymond is running down the sideline again with a 70-yard return for a touchdown after you've just, 21? Was it 35-14 at that point where he broke it up open with the return touchdown? I think that was right.
Brandon on the F&M Bank chat says, we know Levis will not be 100% for the rest of the season. His throwing arm, his very ability to perform has been impeded. Can we actually have an analysis?
Yes. Because he's going to have to play. I mean, I know it's a very specific injury, and he may not have that specific injury at other points, but he's going to have to play through injury at various points in his career. That's just the nature of the NFL. So, yes, you can have an analysis, just as you can have an analysis of Jeff Simmons when he's playing on a hurt ankle, or DeAndre Hopkins when he's dealing with not a bum knee, but a less than stellar knee situation. You can factor that in to your analysis and have the context of, okay, well, he did this while injured. Production is the only thing that matters at this point. How you get there, yes, that matters too. But it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be functional. And to date, they have rarely accomplished functional. They have to prove that against a team that is in a similar situation to them on Sunday. 615-737-1045 is the number. Speaking of sad boys, Mike Giardi is coming up next.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. We will be joined by Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal here in just a second. Now, let me say this on the front end before I yell at Jackson for something that he's just trying to work through, because I do yell at Jackson a lot, but, sometimes it's deserved. we have a new video system. For those of you who watch the radio show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, you may have noticed that we have a much better camera set up, too. The radio station really did right by us by getting us an actual, legit operation around here. But nobody has wanted to be the guinea pig of the new video setup yet, so we haven't done a video interview in a while. We're getting ready to test that here in just a second.
How do you think Mike feels about that?
Oh, Mike's probably used to being, guinea pigged in certain situations his entire life. He's used to bad assignments. He's done plenty of Titans games for the NFL Network during his time there. Anyway, we'll get to Mike.
He's done plenty of good Titans games for the NFL.
Tiffany Blackman got the good Titans games. Mike Giardi got the bad ones.
If Mike Giardi was here for NFL Network, I'm assuming it's because it was a good Titans game. Because there were, this football team was good not that long ago.
Oh, it feels so long ago. All right. I'm told that he might be there. Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. Michael, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear and see you. Can you hear and see me?
Oh, yeah. I can hear me too, though. I don't like that.
No. It's terrible.
There's a little bit of an echo. Okay, we're going to have to see. This is the concern that we had. Maybe we just called Giardi.
Why don't you suck it up?
We got to call him. It's terrible.
It's so bad. All right, Mike, get off here. We'll call you in a second.
All right.
A for effort.
So predictable.
A for effort. So we'll, I mean, listen, we were warned that might happen. It's still something.
So why don't you suck it up?
That is a work in progress.
Chef Ran on the FNM Bank chat says, Buck loves kicking us while we're down. You do act like this team has just been a one-win football team every year since you've been here. You're very overreactionary, but you know that.
No, it's 3 straight years of suck. I deserve to, after 3 straight years of suck, talk about this in a way that would indicate 3 straight years of suck.
Not fun right now. It's not fun right now. But wasn't that long ago that this team was good?
Yeah, that's not how the NFL works. The NFL they're supposed to be able to turn these teams from worst to first overnight.
You just seem so troubled to be having to cover the Titans. Oh, what a terrible job you have.
No, the job is the best in the world.
Oh, it must be so terrible to be Buck Rising.
Oh, please. You're out here trying to get me to do different kind of weekly college basketball segments just to avoid draft talk. Please don't talk to me about being over this. Mike, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. It's so fitting that we would try that. I'm glad that we tried it with you because we knew that you were used to be getting bad assignments on a regular basis, and so that testing out our new video system would not bother you in the least, of course.
I always enjoyed my time in Tennessee. And to Lucas's point, I saw a lot of good football games there. I didn't have to sit through some crap games. At least not too many of them.
I do recall, though, your visit with us right around Black Monday this past NFL coaching cycle, and you were among the loudest voices with what the hell are they doing, firing Mike Vrabel, or just, making a change, not specific to Brian Callahan, but about the person that they let go. This team is 1-6 since I think the last time we've had you on the radio show. You are also not having an enjoyable football experience, but that's okay. We'll get to that here in just a second. What do you make of the Tennessee Titans, the new era Tennessee Titans that decided to make a lot of different changes and have, largely fallen flat on their face?
Is it fair to say the general manager, the head coach, and the OC, the head coach / OC and special teams have all been way below par? Because that's what it feels like. I mean, Rand's comments from this past week were pretty gross.
Oh my God! I couldn't believe. We were shocked that he gave that.
I'm glad you jumped on that because it was like a loser's lament type thing. Look, I'll tell you this. I'll flip it to the other way. Mike Vrabel's resume got a lot stronger just based on what's happening in Tennessee right now. But wait, he kept that team competitive for that long. And then they went out and spent all this money, and they're 1-6, and they're getting beat by 38 points, and look like the second worst team in the league. Carolina, I think, has that pretty much on lockdown, but Tennessee it's been a train wreck.
So it's not like it can't be the right decision to make changes, Mike. What we're trying to figure out is whether they made a mistake in the way that they tried to change this thing, and of course, there's no way to predict that. So I'm giving them maybe more benefit of the doubt than they deserve here because in our heads locally, it made sense what they were trying to do, who they were trying to hire, why they were trying to hire them, to make this into something that it's not really ever been, which is a highly competitive offense fueled by a modernized passing game that was no longer running back centric around the best running back in football, who continues to, by the way, be the best running back in football on another team.
Pretty good.
That's another. But again, he wouldn't do that here, and we all knew it, Mike. Like they've just been so bad for 3 straight seasons that you understood that it was time for some kind of a change. The thing that I can't figure out, and the thing that I've been trying to text smarter football people than me about, is why are they failing so spectacularly? This doesn't compute.
Yeah, I got to be real. I'm surprised that it's looked as bad as it has, because having covered Cincinnati quite a bit during my 5 years at the NFL Network, like the way they spoke about Brian made you believe, yeah, absolutely. When he gets his opportunity to be a head coach, he's going to do a good job with it. And I'm still not ready to just write it all off yet. You're so early in the process, and they're still trying to figure out what they're good at, what they're not good at, like from a coaching staff perspective, the whole thing. But I also look at the roster build, and I remember saying it in the summer on my podcast, like looking at that team and that roster, I'm like, tell me how their roster makes sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The timelines of their best players versus some of the guys they brought in versus being devoid of some young, like the roster is like a mismatch of like, well, we have money, so just go spend it, and not really necessarily answer any problems and sort of create this path for them. So I think it's been a confluence of things that's happened there that have led it to this point. But again, like I said, I still didn't think it would look this bad. And if it continues on this trend, then you do start talking about people are going to lose their jobs, and maybe a lot sooner than anyone expected.
Well, and that's why I want to circle back to what you said about the general manager, because he did, for those of the audience who may not remember this, in the aftermath of this Lions game, he gave an interview on Sunday in the locker room to the Tennesseans' Nick Suss, and made a variety of different comments about why the fans should stick with them, the growing pains that they're currently experiencing, and kind of articulating like the ball bouncing a couple of different ways. Maybe they're in a different spot. Like, Mike, I looked at that, and again, the team didn't offer him to the Tennessean. Nick wasn't approached about doing an interview. Nick just went up to the GM who was sitting in the locker room, said, hey, can I get you for a couple of minutes on what's going on here? And after, my understanding is that Rand begrudgingly said yes, but did the interview anyway. And then you've got those comments out there, and you look at it and say, oh my God, just enough of this.
Yeah. What are you thinking? What message do you think that sends? And to me, that's one of those things where, well, whether you want to say there was a power struggle or not, however you want, he and Mike are on good terms, whatever you want to say, Rand won, right? Rand stayed, Mike left.
Yes.
Rand picked his new head coach, and it has been a disaster thus far. And again, it's still, we're just hit November, so there's still plenty of time for them to sort of point the ship in the right direction. So it felt to me like there's a guy reaching defensive, like, because it's his guy, it's his pick. And this is the thing that if they have to move on from him, Brian, sooner than anyone would have expected, like that's on Rand's resume, right? And who knows, maybe the owner then looks at it and said, this whole collaboration thing that I wanted, maybe he's not the right guy, meaning the general manager, to be the one collaborating with the coach. So I don't know. When you start getting losses like that, and the thing is going in this direction, things get said and done that I'm sure in retrospect, Rand probably should have said, I should have gone with my gut on that one and not done the interview.
Mike Giardi, the Boston Sports Journal, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Obviously, the Patriots coming to town. We're doing a little sad boy radio crossover because also the Patriots are miserable, and Mike is having about as much fun as you are out there.
Yeah, because the dilemma that a lot of Titans fans have had this year, Mike, is that every move the Titans made to bring in a Calvin Ridley at wide receiver, to bring in a L'Jarius Sneed, addressing all these positions of need to put around Will Levis, were moves that were greatly celebrated in the market by media and fans alike. Quarterback plays let them down. Special teams has let them down. So Titans fans are in an especially bad place because the expectation was not this. outside of New England, the expectation was about this for the Patriots, 2 wins at this point in the year. But what has it been like in that market for a fan base that I would imagine probably knew this is what was coming, but not sure how they're handling it at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some unrest early because Gerard Mayo kept contradicting the overall message, which was they were going to let Drake May develop and were not afraid to let that take time. And then right near the end of training camp, he's like, well, he's been our best quarterback the last 2 weeks. And then 2 days later, they named Jacoby Brissett the starter. And everyone's like, well, wait, what are you doing? And so it's the first-year coach thing, right? There's a lot. Gerard has stepped in it so many times and had to walk things back that he said in the first 5-6 weeks of the season that he is now truly starting to adopt a Bill Belichick philosophy at the microphone. Not to say that he's blowing snot rockets at us like Bill used to do, but the last couple of weeks he's gone out there and gone on these 2-minute rants about the other team and how good they are, and goes for offense, defense, and special teams. And that was the Bill specialty, where he would basically just go on this jag for 2 minutes and then be like, all right, well, I don't have to do this for like 5 more minutes. And I've already, I've already eliminated 5 questions by just talking as long as I have. And Gerard is starting to do that as he sort of learns and tries to navigate the media potholes that, quite frankly, he dug and stepped in himself. But then once they turned it over to May in week 6, now there's this different energy about the team, not just internally in the locker room, but also for the fan base, because it's like, okay, well, this is what we wanted to see. And quite frankly, even though it's only been 2 games and then a quarter in a third game, it's been everything that you wanted from the quarterback to this point. So now there's this sort of renewed sense of optimism, even though the team is 2-6, that, ooh, it looks like, again, a little early to rush to judgment, but it looks like we have a real quarterback. And that has sort of started to spark a little bit of a revival in terms of, I know for readership and just there's a different energy about the team now than there was just a few weeks ago, because everybody was like, I don't want to look at Kobe Brissett in this offense, fumble around for 4 quarters.
Oh, you sweet, sweet summer child. The way that me and Lucas just looked at each other and said, we know what that was like just not a year ago. He just went through the year anniversary of that Atlanta Falcons 4-touchdown performance, Will Levis did.
Oh, that was glorious. And I know it's probably trending in the wrong direction for Will and the idea that he's going to be a franchise quarterback, but I still hold a little glimmer of hope that there's something in that kid that we just haven't seen with any sort of consistency, and maybe this is the week he gets back on the field and starts to build in that direction.
I don't want to say that I am against hope in these situations, okay?
But you're against hope. You can say it.
No, but Mike, I'm tired of fooling myself into prolonging an experiment that probably should end before it ultimately ends, right? We went through that with Marcus Mariota here, and there were different reasons with Marcus, and Marcus was a higher level player for a longer period of time.
Higher draft pick.
And a higher draft pick, higher pedigree, there was a heightened level of expectations to Marcus that he did not deliver on that level, but it got dragged out, right? It went 6 games into that 2019 season before they finally yanked him after losing 16-0. Do you remember that Joe Flacco was even a Denver Bronco? Because most people don't. I do, because I saw them
I actually do. Team. I do remember. Yeah. Yeah, he's been everywhere at this point, I think.
So with the quarterback stuff, though, Mike, I wonder how that impacts your thinking, knowing that so many other people have looked at a quarterback in the last couple of years and said, yes, that player belongs at the NFL level. That's reason for hope. Then you spend, like this team did, $260 million in total free agent contracts around him, only to be 1-6.
Yeah, and Patriots did it with Mac Jones. They drafted Mac Jones in the first round. Was he the 5th of 5 quarterbacks, I think, in that draft, in the first round that were picked? And he was the most pro-ready guy in the Alabama, and of course Belichick and Saban are tight, so Saban gave him all the poop, and they went out and spent that, drunken sailors that offseason, and added Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith and Matthew Judon, and on and on it went. They spent the most money that offseason by far of any team, and spent more money than Robert Kraft is still, quite frankly, bitching and moaning about the amount of money he had to dole out that year, and we're 3 years removed from that. And you have the season where they got lucky when you go back and look at it. Like, they faced a lot of backup quarterbacks. There were a lot of injuries, but they went on a 7-game win streak midway through the year. And in December, they were in first place in the AFC East. And we're like, oh my God, did Bill do it again? And then pretty much from that point on, the Mac Jones experience was a debacle. He just didn't have the arm. He didn't have the leadership qualities. There was a million things that went wrong. He didn't have the coach's backing, and that helped undermine him as well. But yeah, we lived that for then essentially 8-9 the next year, and then obviously sort of in and out of the lineup before finally being benched late in the year a season ago, and then traded for a bag of balls and a donut in the off season. So yeah, it's tough when you get in that spot. Because you think back to his rookie year, you think back to one of those 7 games, and you're like, no, that's who he is. No, really, no, that's not who he is. And you're probably right. Will's probably more of what you're sort of settling on and sort of have in your head now than what he was when he threw the 4 touchdown passes or made some electric plays last season. And that's the I guess the bind that you guys are in is that if he does come back in and he shows some life, does that convince them that, we're going to use our top 5 pick on a tackle or a pass rusher or whatever it might be, instead of saying, this is never going to be great. Let's just go find the next guy.
Well, it's compounded here, though, Mike, because of Malik Willis. Because Malik Willis is probably going to start this week, or sounds like it's trending in the direction of starting against the Detroit Lions this week. And maybe Malik doesn't ball out against Detroit the way that he feasted on this team, for example, in week 3, but it's compounded by, oh no, you traded the wrong one away. Look at how well he's doing. Look at how much better they're doing things around him. Why couldn't you do that here?
Yeah, but then you got to argue the Packers roster is one of the best in the league, and LaFleur for his, I don't know that I love him as a head coach, and I think we've seen at various points in his first few years of him not being necessarily a good head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, yeah, he's got it. And he dialed up some great things with Malik that you talked about, like sort of jumping into a modern offense and finally like embracing and getting off the mic and running the ball 40 times a game and doing those sorts of things. Like if Malik Willis was the quarterback, you'd be doing that. You'd be running the ball 40 times a game. Now, you might win a few more games, but I don't think Malik Willis is an answer either. I think he's just in the right spot at the right time, and it's caught a little bit of lightning in a bottle. He still, to me, looks like the same passer. Maybe marginally better than he was when he was in Tennessee. And that, if you play the position and you're not a good passer, I mean, look at Anthony Richardson. He's taking the bench because he's completing 44% of his passes. And guys are arguing, well, they've had a lot of drops. Well, great. If you take out all the drops, it gets them to 50%. Like, what are we talking about here?
Just a quick update. Mike Giardi, the Boston Sports Journal, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Brian Callahan just ruled L'Jarius Sneed out for the 3rd straight game. Andrew Rupsich, their reserve offensive lineman, is headed to injured reserve. Go ahead, Lucas.
So Will Levis, according to Will Levis, it will be up to him on whether or not he's good enough to go on Sunday. Obviously, Drake May limited coming off that concussion from last weekend. Kind of a two-parter for you, Mike. A, does Drake May, do you think, gut feeling, play on Sunday? And if he doesn't, and Joe Milton is indeed a snap away, if Jacoby Brissett were to go down, do you think backflips would be part of his warm-up routine on the sideline before stepping on the field?
I think that on the latter one, I think they were trying to discourage him from doing that. I think they was doing that a lot in training camp, and I think there was at some point someone said, hey, if you don't nail that or you twist an ankle, like, what are we doing? You're going to be out for 3 weeks because you can do a backflip. I think Drake is tracking to play. Now, I never like to predict concussions, because you don't know. He could wake up tomorrow and, having gone through a little bit more today that he wakes up tomorrow and he's feeling a little foggy or he's got a headache or whatever, and that changes the equation. But what I reported on Monday and Tuesday was he was suffering no ill effects from the hit to the back of the head by Jamie Sherwood on Sunday. And it almost felt like there was a little extra bit of caution there. And, obviously once you get in the protocol, you're in the protocol and you can't speed that up. You have to go through the 5 stages of it. But it felt like maybe the Patriots were being cautious, and everything that's happened so far this week, he's been limited. He'll be limited again today in practice, but it feels as though, he's in stage 4 right now. It feels as though he's going to he's going to pass if there's no setbacks, and if he passes, he's playing. I don't think they're not going to stick him on a flight to Tennessee if he's not playing. So my expectation is, barring a setback, that's who you're seeing on Sunday.
Are you making the trip?
We are not making the trip. For whatever reason, we're not making the trip, but it's okay. I'll get it from my couch. I get to write from my couch, and then I don't have to deal with traffic or see you. And that's
a win.
Those are both wins.
You could have just gotten to the hurtful part off the top, Mike, instead of just waiting until the last part to just stick me in the side.
I wanted to let it linger for a second before I got to it.
Well, nothing's lingering worse than the bad smell of these two teams that are getting ready to play on Sunday at Nissan Stadium, but we soldier through nonetheless. Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal, Sad Boy Radio, hats all around. Good to talk to you, bub.
My pleasure.
It's Mike Giardi with us on 104.5 The Zone. See, there are more miserable people than me out there.
Oh, God, you are miserable. You are making me miserable. I am so tired of hearing about the bad smell and the toilet bowl. It's like, God, just stop. Just make it stop.
I mean, we can talk about Tennessee if you want. That's the only way I can make it stop. That's the only relief that I can offer you. Or Vandy. Maybe Vandy. Vandy go winning a game at Auburn. Maybe we talk more Vandy.
Some good high school football tonight.
Do you want to plug your thing?
We'll do it next.
All right. Last call for phone calls. You guys, Jackson, where are you taking in the Tennessee-Kentucky game tomorrow? You staying in town? You watching it from home? You hanging out with friends? What are you doing?
I will be in town, unsure of plans yet.
Lucas and Bert are making the trek to East Tennessee. Think Slay's going to be there too, yeah?
Slay will be there, confirmed. We will be making the trek from middle to east. So will, by the way, quick local tie, some news that local linebacker, outside linebacker Brendan Ains of Page High School, who has had a phenomenal career, phenomenal season, has flipped his commitment from Wisconsin to Tennessee. So congrats to Brendan.
Congrats to you mean, because I saw you fist bumping during the commercial break, or was that a different commitment that you were still
just now?
Doing? No, earlier. This was about an hour ago, I think, when you saw the news, yes?
Oh, I love that for
yelling things into the microphone.
I don't think I did that. But
I have witnesses.
Congratulations to Brendan Ains, fine player, on an undefeated team right now. Page, the 5A, the favorites to be in the 5A championship from Middle Tennessee, for sure.
So, Vols have a big opportunity to entrench themselves further in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's mind, because, of course, there will be a ranking between Saturday and Wednesday that will be very, very important for this team to try and establish themselves further. Style points do matter. They've always mattered, but they've never been more important to a team like Tennessee that's kind of stuck. I don't want to call it stuck in this like middle, but they are in a bit of a log jam among 10-2 resume, potential 10-2 resume-esque teams. And Lucas gave you the rooting guide for that earlier in the show. And then for the Titans, again, it's an opportunity because Lucas is right. Like, I should probably back off the jokes at a certain point because I understand that you understand how bad it's been. I don't need to continue to pile on in some instances. But I do have very little else to say about this team that he has yet to prove that they are capable of being more than a laughingstock, and I would like to see them do it on Sunday, as I'm sure Titans fans would, even if you are rooting for losses that lead to the best possible draft pick. You need to find out something about this team beyond just is Will Levis or isn't Will Levis, because there's a lot more things that are going to be here beyond 2024, theoretically, than just Will Levis. So this is an important game, even if it is against an inferior opponent. It is an important game for you to win. Pauls? I do like it, but
Polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What's the most positive story you've seen in sports this week? Jack says Freddie Freeman winning World Series MVP after all the injuries that he battled through.
Awesome performance by Freddie Freeman. Homering in just about all of these games. He was excellent throughout the course of the postseason. But really came through in the biggest spot, especially for an older player that's easy to root for like Freddie Freeman is, because he's been through personal tragedy, been through professional tragedy, able to come out on the other side with the Dodgers, who win a non-COVID World Series, and I think are very proud of that one since the last one was 2020, right?
It was. Yeah, 8th World Series title in LA Dodgers history. How many points do the Vols need to beat Kentucky by to help their case for the college football playoff? The last I saw, the spread is up to Tennessee minus 17.5. Daryl says 20. Karen says 14 at least. Scoob says 35. I'd go with just cover. I think it would help you to cover. At the end of the day, obviously, you got to get the win. But it's not going to help your case if you're Tennessee, if you finish the year 10-2 and you look back and you had to squeak by against a Kentucky team that seems to just be drowning right now.
I'm with that. Do what you're expected to do, which is win by 3 scores.
Which fan base is having less fun this season, Titans or Patriots? 86.5% of the Titans audience say Titans.
No bias there whatsoever.
Are the New York Jets a good football team? 90% say no, they're not.
Yeah, but it still serves my point. The only thing I wanted to find out there is if bad football teams are still occasionally capable of winning the odd football game, as the Jets did last night against a quality opponent.
Do you want Will Levis to play if he's not 100%? 61% say no. 39% are saying yes.
If he's not 100%, I mean, there's going to be too many other opportunities that he's going to have to, whether it's here or elsewhere in his NFL career, play when he's not 100%. I just don't think that can be the ultimate determining factor. Now, just a few things to, those the polls?
Those are the polls.
Excellent. Just a few things to add here from Brian Callahan's press conference before we send you on your way for the weekend. Justin Hardy just added to the roster, hinted at getting some work at gunner, so special teams changes may be coming there. As I mentioned, L'Jarius Sneed out, and Brian Callahan saying that it was not Will Levis's decision as to whether he starts on Sunday. Will Levis seems to have just misspoke. It is Brian Callahan's decision as to who starts at quarterback, but Brian Callahan is saying that his input is what is welcome there because obviously it's not Brian Callahan's shoulder that's hurt.
Hey, great high school football tonight. Battle of the Woods, Brentwood and Ravenwood, 7 p.m. The Zone will be broadcasting. MyTV 30 will be on the call for it there. Region championship, rivalry matchup, everything you want in a regular season finale at the end of the high school football season.
I hope you have a fun weekend. I hope the experience for you guys at Neyland is great. We'll see what happens on Sunday. Join us outside of Gate 3 of Nissan Stadium for the pregame show, 9 a.m. Blaine and Zach coming up next.